British boxing has another blockbuster on its hands, and the noise around it is impossible to ignore. Conor Benn vs. Chris Eubank Jr. is back, and the opinions are flying from all corners of the sport. Some are calling for a late stoppage, others predict a tactical points win. A few believe the rematch won't even go the distance. The tension is real, the stakes are higher, and both men are leaning into the moment. It's not just a grudge match anymore, it's a crossroads fight with legacy and future paydays hanging in the balance. Early predictions reflect just how split the boxing world is. There are bold calls for an early Conor Benn knockout. Round 4 has been floated more than once, based on his explosive starts and ability to bite down when he senses a breakthrough. Others stick to the fundamentals and side with size and seasoning. In that camp, the logic is straightforward. Eubank Jr. is the bigger man, a natural middleweight who has campaigned higher, and in a 12-round fight that reality tends to show. That's why plenty of pundits lean toward Eubank on points. Either way, everyone agrees on one thing. It's going to be a very good fight. What tilts the pre-fight conversation toward Eubank Jr. is what's in his corner this time. Brian "Bomac" McIntyre is back as lead trainer, and that matters. Bomac is more than a familiar face. He's the strategist who helped steer Terence Crawford to the top of the sport, tightening fundamentals, controlling pace, and building fight-by-fight game plans that hold up under lights and pressure. He knows how to prepare fighters for 12 hard rounds without promising a result you can't script. His approach is practical. Get in shape for 15, accept that stoppages can't be predicted, and be ready to punish mistakes when they come. That's the school Eubank has re-enrolled in for this rematch. Structure, patience, and conditioning, backed by a trainer he clearly respects. Bomac himself has been open about why he took the call. He sees Eubank as a serious operator with a hard work ethic and the kind of instinct you can shape into a disciplined performance. He has trained Eubank before, knows what he's working with, and speaks like a man who expects execution. From Eubank's side, that continuity could be crucial. He doesn't just need advice. He needs a voice he'll listen to when the fight gets rough and the crowd leans in. In the first fight, moments of drift crept in. In a rematch, that is where a master strategist makes the difference. There's a compelling twist in all this. Terence Crawford, one of the best boxers on the planet and Bomac's most decorated student, has offered direct advice to Conor Benn after watching him up close. Caught on camera, Crawford zeroed in on Benn's biggest vulnerability: discipline in the pocket and fitness down the stretch. He told Benn to stop pulling straight out of exchanges, to tighten those exits, and to show up with the kind of engine that keeps his power live for all 12. The message was blunt and fair. Benn has power and grit, but against a well-prepared opponent his own fatigue sometimes invites counters. If he cleans that up, he can be competitive in every minute of this fight. Ignore it, and the bigger man's advantages in size and structure start stacking up. Tony Bellew has raised a separate flag about the physical toll Eubank took the first time. He pointed out that Eubank didn't just deal with rehydration struggles around the weight. He absorbed more clean shots than he had in a long time. There was a hospital visit and a reminder that these nights take something from you. Bellew's view is that Eubank's body went through a lot and that while he can replicate his output, that damage has a way of echoing. It's a fair warning. Rematches are as much about recovery as they are about tactics, especially when both fighters have been relatively inactive over the last couple of years. Eddie Hearn, who promotes Benn, adds an angle that's less technical and more human. He praises Eubank's toughness and stubbornness, core traits that have made him a popular figure with British fans, but stresses that corners have a responsibility too. After their first fight, Hearn says the tone around Eubank's team felt cautious, the kind of concern that follows a fighter through a difficult night and a long hospital stay. With Eubank now expecting twin boys, there's a hint that priorities naturally evolve. No one is suggesting he will go soft. The point is simpler. Late in a hard fight, the people who love you might be more willing to say that enough is enough. If this rematch becomes a battle of attrition, those quiet conversations could matter. At the same time, Eubank is speaking like a man who sees beyond the rivalry. He has already said publicly that after he deals with Conor Benn for a second time, he wants the biggest names in the sport, Canelo Alvarez or Terence Crawford, in 2026. Those are gigantic ambitions, and critics have pushed back hard. The blunt response has been that both men in this rivalry are a level or two behind Crawford for now. Even so, framing this rematch as both a legacy fight and a stepping stone tells you where Eubank's head is. He wants definitive results. He even said that with a significant win, he doesn't see a trilogy as necessary, though he left the door open if they serve up another fight of the year type of spectacle. His job, as he puts it, is simple. Go in and take the other man out. The counter-narrative is equally loud. Skeptics point to Eubank's age, his recent form, and the old losses to Billy Joe Saunders and George Groves. They say he was slow with the jab in his last outing, left his chin high, and looked off-balance too often. They add that boxing once a year at 36 is not a recipe for peak sharpness. It's a fair critique, and it's exactly why so many think Benn has a real chance if he starts fast and stays disciplined. Within that argument is a consensus. Benn can't let Eubank settle. He must take the initiative in the first 3 rounds and refuse to give it back. On paper, Eubank still brings advantages that matter on fight night. He is the naturally bigger man, a middleweight by trade who has campaigned at super middleweight and knows how to use his frame. This rematch brings back the same rehydration restrictions on fight morning, so neither side can inflate overnight and game the scales. That puts even more emphasis on timing and technique. Eubank's jab, his ability to dictate range, and the way Bomac asks his fighters to control pace, all of those pieces are designed to make Benn reach, miss, and pay. Carl Froch has offered one of the more nuanced reads. He leans toward Benn this time, even while conceding that Eubank's size keeps him a slight favorite on paper. Froch's logic is built on youth, freshness, and the education Benn absorbed in their first fight. He points out that Benn had plenty to learn in real time and still pushed hard enough to leave a mark. Froch also touched on the tensions between Benn and the British Boxing Board of Control, who fined Benn heavily for missing weight. Without endorsing the criticism, Froch said the board does its job for fighter safety and suggested Benn would likely regret turning that into a personal feud. The wider takeaway is that Benn is carrying more experience and a cleaner focus into this fight. Frank Warren makes a simple argument that's hard to dismiss. In boxing, the big guy usually beats the little guy. He acknowledged that Benn boxed much better than expected early in the first meeting, but insisted the size difference told in the later rounds. His advice to Benn is direct: jump on Eubank from the opening bell, make him uncomfortable, and be the boss. That gives him a chance. If he lets the fight drift, the same pattern as last time could emerge and Eubank will walk away with a points win. Amir Khan sees a closer fight but still favors Eubank. His view is anchored in experience and physicality. He believes Benn can do more, that he held back in key moments the first time, and that he has improved. But for Khan, the bigger man tends to control the terms of engagement in a 12-rounder. He also praised Eubank for the way he has won fans over in recent years. Whatever you think of his style or his callouts, he shows up, takes risks, and fights with pride. There are also voices looking at the intangibles. One longtime observer noted that Benn is climbing 2 weight classes for his biggest nights and has not yet fought a string of opponents at the level Eubank Jr. has faced. That's true, but it's also the source of Benn's conviction. He comes from a family defined by drive and self-belief. He's been clear that this saga has dragged on long enough and he wants it closed now. He and his partner have just welcomed their son, Eli, and Benn has said he wants to give supporters this fight, then move back down to his natural weight and chase a world title. He has even dismissed talk of a trilogy, saying this ends with a rematch and he's ready to turn the page. Sean Porter, who sparred Benn, offered a detail that should stick with viewers. When you move up, you're not just carrying more weight, you're carrying new responsibilities and different decisions. Porter said Benn missed big, explosive shots in the first fight and paid for it by slowing down and falling out of position. He struggled to get to Eubank and stay there long enough to work. Porter's point is that even if Benn is fitter and smarter this time, the physics haven't changed. Eubank is legitimately taller, legitimately bigger, and knows how to make those dimensions count. Liam Smith, the only man to stop Eubank Jr., adds a wrinkle. He expected Eubank to win the first fight, but thought Benn performed much better than anticipated. Based on that, he says he fancies Benn a little more this time. If he had to put money down, he might pick Benn in the rematch. That's telling not because Smith is betting against Eubank's chin or heart, but because he saw enough growth in Benn's craft and temperament to believe the gap can be bridged with a clean game plan and a strong start. The rematch was always going to happen. Both fighters were contractually guaranteed a return, and despite the physical toll and the heat around the weight, they've committed to another 12 rounds. Eubank Sr., never shy about speaking his mind, has stayed relatively guarded this time but remains vocal about the weight demands. He believes his son is a natural 168-pounder now, and that cutting to 160 drains